All right, we are live. We are live. I'm from episode 5. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Gavin Richard Presents on my channel, G Boot to 786. Hope everybody's doing great on this Sunday. You guys will probably see this video. I don't intend to be long with it, so I'm just uploading my at this time my links and my articles that I've been looking over for this topic. I hope everybody's been doing great. Got somebody in the chat room. Let's see who that is. I won't say. I hope everybody's been doing good. I'm trying to get more people in. All right. Excuse me. So, you guys saw the title. You know what this is about. First and foremost, let me just say this too while I'm got you on here, because it's a lovely day in New Orleans. Over the weekend, we, of course, buried one of our great storytellers and news anchors, Miss Nancy Parker Boyd, Mrs. Nancy Parker Boyd. Never met the woman. I only knew her through passing, especially through on Facebook and so forth. We were Facebook friends, and she was from what I saw, genuinely a sweet woman. And the people who spoke at her memorial service said the same. They didn't have a bad word to say about her, and she always brightened up your day just seeing her. So my thoughts and prayers are with her and her family and friends and colleagues who were close with her. And and also with the gentleman who perished in the crash, Flavius Augustus, who was the pilot. Apparently, when he took off, he was having problems from what I've been hearing. So you don't expect something like that. And it was just a tragic accident. But nevertheless, in New Orleans, rest in power, as we say. Vive le poisson. I just made that up. I don't know what the hell that means. No, but laissez les bon temps rouler means let the good times roll. And in New Orleans, when someone dies, when we second line, like you saw for Nancy, that's a tradition that we have because, of course, every funeral, most stars or local celebrities here, they'll get that, like Dr. John or Fats Domino, and of course, Leah Chase had it. People that impacted the city, people that were part of the community. Even though Nancy was from Alabama, she'd been living in Louisiana for over 20 plus years, and was married here, had her children here. So she was just as much a part of New Orleans as anybody. So this was her home. She started out in Baton Rouge, and then she came to New Orleans. So, we'll miss her. But having said all of that, I'm sure she wanted everyone to move on, and I just wanted to say that right quick. But at any rate, guys, to talk about our topic today, Jay-Z and the NFL. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman, as you all know. Who's in the chat room first? Put something in the message box. Put something in the chat box so we know who you are. Well, I don't know who you are. Just say good morning to you. Okay, you can be shy. So, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't do this video sooner, but I was just waiting for more and more details to come out. Jay-Z and the NFL reached a deal with Jay-Z's Roc Nation to be in charge of their to be in charge basically of the league's live music entertainment. So what I believe that encompasses is basically Jay-Z is going to be working with the NFL as far as how they'll handle, I guess, their next Super Bowl event or the NFL season opener when they want to get a live recording artist to come and perform, things of that nature. It's supposed to also include overseeing the NFL Social Justice Initiative. I don't even know what the NFL Social Justice Initiative is. Do you? I don't even have a clue. But Of course, this partnership happened a couple of weeks ago on August 13th, and Jay-Z, and understandably so from a lot of people, was criticized because they felt that he crossed the picket line. And Colin Kaepernick is out of a job. I've in does that deal include Colin Kaepernick? People have been asking, and of course, Jay Z basically had stated that he had talked to Colin, and I've heard different reports otherwise. Colin's own attorney, Mark Garagos, denied that Jay Z had even contacted Colin Kaepernick about this whole nation. You are damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Now, as looking at that as a businessman and someone that deals with working with people from different backgrounds, walks of life, people may not understand or don't like the fact that Jay-Z is dealing with the NFL. Now, I understand why people are upset at the fact that Colin Kaepernick has been out of the league for 3 years and he hasn't worked and he has not signed with an NFL team. Uh, do I believe Colin has been blackballed? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that he can still play? Yeah. But realistically, I don't believe he will get another chance to play quarterback because when he started doing this kneeling and protesting, you remember at that time he was at, I won't say the down end, but he was basically at the end of his career with the San Francisco 49ers. He losing the quarterback, starting quarterback position at that time, around 2015, 2014. And then going back and forth, and this started to happen after Jim Harbaugh retired, not retired, but was forced out of San Francisco. Because you remember the 49ers actually were in two straight NFC championships in 2012, 2011 before that. And 2013 obviously was the last, I think their last, I think Harbaugh's last year. He only stayed with the team, I think, 3 or 4 years. So he, around that time, and Colin was actually in the Super Bowl, coincidentally, in New Orleans against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, that was the team that Ray Lewis supposedly said he was trying to get Colin a job when let me see, Nessa Diop. I'm just trying to get her last name correct. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah, well, Nessa Diop, she's hosted, MTV shows. She's a radio host and a television personality. She tweeted that picture of Ray Lewis and the Baltimore Ravens owner at that time. His name is, hold on, Steve Biscotti. That's correct. Yeah, Steve Biscotti. Yeah, she tweeted that picture of Ray Lewis and Steve Biscotti like Django, and that was a time during the protest. And of course, they didn't hire Colin. And when you insult someone, when you do something like that, and then when you also file a lawsuit against the NFL a year later claiming that they colluded against you, do you really expect, just hear me out, that the league would give you a job again after you sue them? I doubt it. They want nothing to do with Colin. So in return, the NFL decides to work with the wealthiest black man, one of the wealthiest black men in America. And the NFL, knowing who Jay-Z is, knowing his influence, decides they're going to work with him the NFL decides they're going to work with him. And of course, they're doing that to save face. The ratings for the NFL have been down in the last couple of years. I know that this Super Bowl that passed, which was Super Bowl 53, was the lowest rated Super Bowl in 10 years since Super Bowl 45, if I'm not mistaken, which was the Green Bay Packers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I honestly, I watched the Super Bowl myself, or I stand corrected. I think that was Super Bowl 43 with the Cardinals versus the Steelers. But personally, I didn't really watch the Super Bowl myself. I wasn't into it that much. I think that the Nola no call in New Orleans against the Rams against the Saints really took a lot out of people here in the city. Also, just looking at the NFL entirely, I'm not even that enthused about it anymore. Although I love the sport of football, I feel that honestly, and I'll say this, I think that I think that it is a big money racket. That's just me. I think that the mob influences many of the outcomes. I'm starting to believe that, especially when you look at that no call. When I saw even some plays, games before that, one game in particular was the Cleveland Browns versus Jacksonville Jaguars game some years back, where team got the Cleveland Browns got screwed by the league, based flat out in the referees when a play had already been ran, and they still reviewed a previous play, and the rules clicked and reversed a call, which basically gave the ball to the Jaguars and kept the Cleveland Browns out of the playoffs. You can go look that up on YouTube, actually. 2001 Cleveland Browns versus Jacksonville Jaguars. At any rate, guys, realistically speaking, so Jay-Z, they talked about this and how Jay-Z is teaming up with the NFL social initiative. We don't even know what that is. And Jay-Z to Charlemagne, because Charlemagne was asking the guy, because Charlemagne was at this meeting and the press was there and they were asking questions about Colin and so forth. And where's he at the table? Now, I don't like the fact, though, that it's become about one man being at the table. There's a place for all of us. Of course, I understand why many people focus on Colin, because Colin was the one who started those protests. And in truthfulness now, as I said earlier, I've been confused because it was about the NFL. Well, it was about the police brutality and racism that many of our people go through with these police departments. And then, of course, when you look at the other side, people like Trump and people like, Fox News and others, it became more about the and being disrespectful to the military and being disrespectful to the country, which it had nothing to do with that. In fact, it was a Navy veteran who suggested that Colin Kaepernick kneel instead of just sitting on the sidelines doing nothing when the anthem was being read. And then they tried to force many of the NFL players. They put a policy in 2018 to force people who force the players to stand during the anthem. Now, these are grown men. How in the world can you tell a grown man what he can and cannot do, whether you're going to stand for the anthem or not? And let's keep in mind also, in fairness, in 2007, the Department of Defense the Pentagon gave millions of dollars to the NFL to push paid patriotism. They gave money to the NFL, of course, now, because if you noticed, especially during Veterans Day and during the month of November, when Veterans Day appears, the NFL has this campaign, of course, which salute our troops. Not saying any disrespect to the troops, but of course, you see these different various teams, all the NFL teams wearing camouflage. Well, that in part, something I've never seen before, but that in part is inspired by the league. That was inspired by the NFL making a deal with the Department of Defense. So, are they really about or is it really about patriotism? That they are upset at Colin, that they're upset at kneeling? No. This is about money. It's about business. They don't give a damn about social justice. And honestly, of course, I'm not saying all of the NFL players don't care about them, but I'm just speaking in general. And I think it's ultimately comes down about money. And Jay-Z is about money, whether we like it or not. I've never been a Jay-Z fan, and I don't his deal. But at the same time, I understand that it's business. Now I do think it's what is shady, what is sneaky, and what's funny is that Jay-Z actually tried to convince Jermaine Dupri and a few others from Atlanta to not take a deal during the Super Bowl of this year. And I think that in of itself maybe is hypocritical because it ends up he telling them not to do this deal with the league, but then he comes along and does a deal with the league. Of course, he was talking about it being about the entertainment game wasn't up, or something like that. Don't do nothing like that. But he ended up taking a very deal, worked with them. I think that was hypocritical. And Dame Dash, I saw his interview. He said Jay ain't shit, and he knows Jay-Z, I guess, more personally than what I would or you would because I've never met Jay-Z in my life. And I want to dispel another rumor. A lot of people were saying that Jay-Z was going to get this NFL team. Now, the NFL has never had a black owner. Not even when Walter Payton, the great Walter Payton, Sweetness. I remember a few years ago, before he died, they did a documentary on his life on the NFL Network, and he tried to become the NFL's first black owner. And I believe he was actually trying to form what would have been the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Walter did not get that deal. Another businessman, when the Minnesota Vikings came up for sale in, I believe it was in 2004, he tried to buy I think his name, he was owner, I think his name was Reggie Fowler. Okay. Yes, Reggie Fowler. He tried to buy, he's a businessman. He tried to buy the Minnesota Vikings sometime in 2004, but he was unsuccessful. And of course, when you got to think about this, when you become a business owner, excuse me, sorry about that. When you become a NFL owner, that has to be ratified by the league. That has to be ratified by all the NFL owners to approve a bid like that. So that's not something you give. And when TMZ falsely reported that Jay-Z was going to be this NFL owner, I never believed it. I never believed it because they don't give that to you. Jay-Z doesn't even own the Nets like people think he does. He just has a controlling. He just has a not even a controlling percentage, but he has a percentage in the Brooklyn Nets, and he's become the face of the Nets when the Nets were struggling out in Brooklyn, and then they subsequently, was struggling out in New Jersey, and then they subsequently moved to Brooklyn because the Nets were originally in New Jersey, yeah, and then they became Brooklyn. So I corrected myself. Excuse me. So this is, but Ziggy Wilf, as you know, became owner. He no longer has a stake in the Minnesota Vikings, a minority, as of 2014. He no longer has any interest in it. So there are no minorities that full out own their own teams. Of course, Michael Jordan owning the Charlotte Bobcats, subsequently Hornets. That's the NBA. And yeah, Venus, I've heard Venus and Serena, they have a stake in the Miami Dolphins, but so does Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony. Of course, I don't know if they've sold that, but a stake doesn't mean I own you outright and I can do whatever I want. A stake just means you have an interest and investment. And so it's a way, obviously, to make money, and it's a way to, give you some stability because NFL teams typically like the Miami Dolphins or the Pittsburgh Steelers or the New York Giants, teams like that. The sales, the highest sales for jerseys, I believe one year, oddly enough, was Colin Kaepernick. Also, let's see who else. I think at one time during his protest, people were buying Kaepernick jerseys. And keep in mind, when you're doing that, those that are protesting the NFL, when you buy those, you're still buying an NFL product. So you're putting more money into the NFL's coffers. So I I'm And yeah, honestly, yeah, Colin Kaepernick had the highest selling jersey since his national anthem protests. That was in, let's see, this was in 2016. So while he was doing that, you know, his jersey sales were going through the roof. And of course, the NFL, I mean, the NFL is about business. It's about making money at the end of the day. So having said all of that, I think of Jay-Z is no different than what Oprah did. Of course, I despise Oprah. I definitely didn't like what she did with Michael. But I do think she's about making money. I get that. I understand that. Whether I like it or not, no, I don't like it. But I get all of that. And yeah, I do think Jay-Z was on the hypocritical side of the game if he was criticizing Jermaine Dupri from taking a deal that he subsequently took. Although my understanding is he made sure he got certain things out of it. As far as his social justice and initiative, I don't know exactly what that's going to be, and I don't think any of us do. Honestly, yeah, there are things that the NFL may do in the community. They're talking about building parks, and I've seen them with the kids with the NFL and United Way programs, but that could be social justice and initiative. I don't know what exactly and specifics that they had in mind. But I know one damn thing: he wasn't owning no NFL team. That is for sure. And we just got to understand that when we live in America, when we live in a country that has been traditionally racist towards Black Americans, we cannot expect the same people necessarily to come to our aid. If we're going to be protesting the NFL, this is protesting it includes getting rid of all the video games, not playing in NFL Madden. It means not doing fantasy draft. That means when you get invited to the Super Bowl party by your friends, you turn them down. You got to go all the way with it if you're going to be that comfortable with protesting the NFL. Uh, you know, Same thing if you saw it in the NBA, NFL team. You can't half-ass it. So I do understand again, and I'm going to be leaving on this note, the business side of it and what Jay-Z is doing. But I don't know, and I don't think we are getting a seat at the table necessarily. I think that, yeah, on the flip side of the game, this was just a move for Jay-Z. I don't see it benefiting the community. And that's just my opinion. But you guys be the judge. At any rate, guys, that's it for me. I hope to see y'all again. I wanted to do this quick video. You guys take care. Have a blessed day. I got the links here on website, on live stream in the chat box. Also, let me see if I can pull up the God, I hate to quote anything from the Root. I do not like, but I'm just going to go to their link from CBS Sports. This was the CBS Sports article. Yeah, Jay-Z, written by Jason LaCanfora. Jay-Z is not going to be an NFL owner. I knew that already, that wasn't going to happen. So, all right, you guys take it easy and be blessed. That's the link. You'll see it in the live chat, and I'll try and put it in the description box. Peace, guys.